Hi guys, happy Tuesday. Oh, closer here than I was in the preview. Anyways, hi guys, happy Tuesday. Like I do every Tuesday, I'm going live today. I have one today that actually was really interesting to me. Today I'm going to be talking about the term authentic content. You see that used a lot by copywriters and social media managers and things of that nature. So there were some things about the term that bugged me, and there was more I wanted to learn about, so I did a deep dive on it. That way I could help you understand better what that term is, and also how to use it to your advantage in your business in a way that's still good, because the idea behind authentic content is you're telling stories about yourself that ideally lead to sales. So anyways, we're going to talk about authentic content for your business, why you should care about it, how to come up with ideas and write it, and how you can use it. So all right, where I'm first going to start, just because I feel like other people might be in this place, is I have a couple of hang-ups with the term authentic content, and so I actually go with a different term. And I'll get to that in a second. So my first hang-up when it comes to the term authentic content, how can I use the word authentic when I clearly have an agenda? How can I feel like I'm authentically telling stories if I'm just baking in sales pitches? So maybe you feel that way, because I know that's something that I have felt when I hear this term. So let's just call a spade a spade. When you're sharing authentic content for your business, yeah, you have an agenda, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sorry, I had a pop-up jump up and it distracted me. Sorry, guys. So authentic content does have an agenda. So if it helps, it may be good to change what you call it. I know that helped me to mentally reframe it. For authentic content, instead you could say content with a purpose, or intentional storytelling, or strategic storytelling. The one I'll be using through the rest of this and throughout is results-oriented storytelling, or results-focused. You're telling good stories, authentic stories, true stories about yourself, but you have a result in mind. And I'll get to this more, but a good question to have when it comes to this: when it comes to any story that you tell, there usually is some kind of agenda, right? You are trying to get to a certain end, right? And that was my second hang up when it came to this authentic content concept that I keep seeing come up. My second hang up is, isn't baking the sales pitch into a story? Isn't that manipulative or sneaky somehow? Here's the thing. As long as your story is 100% honest and you're not misleading anyone regarding your services or the story, you're not being manipulative. You're being strategic. One good example I can think of is just like, I don't know how much you guys know about President Lincoln. I know bits and pieces. My mom loves him, loves Civil War history. So I recently rewatched the movie Lincoln, and he was famous. He was famous for persuading people with good stories. He was known for telling funny stories, even lewd stories, but that was his strategy for being persuasive, for helping to get people to get to an end result that he wanted them to get to. Again, you can't force someone, but you can be more persuasive, and stories are a part of that. It's a strategy, not a manipulation. If you think of it this way, a good story is, you're basically leading a horse to water, but you're not making them drink. You're not manipulating them. You're not forcing them to sell it. Just help them understand, this is how I think this can really help you, and here's a good story to really illustrate why. I'll get into this story later, but this is more than just having qualifications. You don't always just sign up for a company because, or for, say you have a choice of lawyers. So you have 3 lawyers you're choosing from, and they all have the same amount of qualifications, and they all have the same amount of education and experience. So how do you choose which one you go with? Sometimes it's a personal thing, a gut thing. Maybe they tell a different story that helps them feel like they understand you better, right? So that's what I mean by that. And again, don't forget, most of the stories that we tell on a day-to-day basis outside of our business, we're telling them because we have a persuasive agenda. Again, agenda is such it's kind of a loaded word, I feel like, in my mind, but we tell stories because that's how we communicate. That's how we help people get on our side, move people to action. For example, say that you had a bad day and you want sympathy. So you tell your partner about your bad day so that you can help get sympathy, right? Or you want to try a new Thai restaurant that just opened up. but your husband really likes burgers. So you show him some reviews and tell him, you know, my friend Stacy went there and she had a good experience. You're telling stories to help persuade him to give it a shot to go with you. You told a story because you had a result in mind. You had you were telling a results-oriented story, right? Or for example, with your kids, Santa Claus will only bring you presents if you're good. I think that's a perfect example of a story where you have the results. You want your kids to behave at Christmas time, right? So that's my second hang up. That's my second hang up. It's just like, okay, authentic content, fine, but the baking and the sales pitch, but it makes sense. This is who we are as people. It's how we communicate. And then the other hang up I have, and this is something that really goes into like the more, again, I'm an ambivert, but I definitely have deep introvert tendencies in my business. The hang up also that I had is just like, well, I don't like interrupting and bothering people with these stories with my stuff. They don't want to hear my stories. They don't want to hear about my work. This is a big one. This is not one that I know that's just me. I know a lot of people deal with this. Now here's the thing. When it comes to your business, when it comes to your social media, no one is going to ask for stories from you. They're not going to ask for stories about your day. They're not going to ask for stories about your business. They're not going to ask for stories about your life. And if you wait for that to happen, it's not going to happen. But here's the thing. Everyone loves a good story that's well told. So for example, sometimes I'll tell a story and I don't think I'm going to get much engagement, or I'm like, you know, I don't understand people be interested, but then I'll get comments. People will like how the story was told, like that it was unusual, whatever. They interact with me through the story. So even though they didn't ask for me to tell these stories, they still like them when they're told well, or they're interesting, or they connect to them. So think of it this way. When it comes to you trying to get the word out about your business, when you get the word out, at least try and find a way to make the words you get out worth their time. Make it worth an interesting read. And also, how can you help the people who need you through your business, through your service, if you never tell them what you do, or if you don't help them understand how you can help them? Because there are genuinely people out there who need what you're doing, but may not understand exactly why should they hire you, or what exactly do you help them do in their business again, or what benefit would that be for, stuff like that. Sometimes you have to really tell the right story, because they already are there. You're just helping them understand, oh, this is me. And telling a good story does that. It's drawing connections. It's making that click, right? It's not forcing it. It's just revealing it. And also when it comes to, I don't want to interrupt people, guess what? Social media is specifically designed for us to share our stories. That's what the whole space is built for us to share our stories, our day, our picture, our lives. Your business is a part of your life. This is social media. So those are the hangups I had as far as when it comes to like authentic content and what that means. So now I'm going to get into more like what authentic content is, and how to come up with ideas, and how to use it in your business. I've got a really good example when it comes to how from someone who uses this story that's perfect for this. Okay, so why should you care about using authentic content, or like I said, results motivated storytelling? Why are you telling stories from your life with the intent of getting business or connecting with potential clients? Bottom line, it boils down to, this works. It provides a clear professional advantage. There's something I have in the description of this video where I'm suggesting you to look up a couple of books if you want to read more about authentic content for your business and things like that. 2 excellent books. The first one I mentioned on there talks about how when she was helping screen applicants for the University of Chicago, everyone who submitted their applications for this program that she was sorting for, they were all qualified. They had the right education, the right background, things like this. But there were more applicants than seats. So then it became this problem. How do we figure out who we admit? And she said straight up, the applicants who stood out from the crowd the most were the ones who told the most compelling stories. Most specifically, stories that connected us to an applicant's values, accomplishments, and future plans with the institution, with the university, and that will help set the candidate apart in the right way. So, and she's actually used the word authentic when it came to this description. The ones that got accepted, they revealed elements of their authentic selves in a meaningful way. So she gave these two examples that I really liked. One where one of the applicants told a story about his grandfather in World War II, the characteristics that he went through, you know, in coming out alive from World War II and fighting against Hitler. And then he was able to draw connections to himself with his grandfather's values. So he's like, I'm like my grandfather in these ways. These are my values and my ethics. And he got admitted. This essay helped put him over the top. Another one talked about how she had a big family. So she wasn't drawing things back to, like, you know, a World War II veteran. She says, I have a big family. We eat a big dinner together every night. And then when I did my campus visit at the university, it reminded me of the dinner, and she made this connection. This is what we're talking about. We're making connections. We're drawing connections between ourselves and our clients, our journey and our client's journey. This is what authentic content is. We're talking about ourselves, and of course we're doing it with the goal of getting to work with them or finding the right people to work with, but we have to draw the connection. It's not up to them to draw that connection. That's up to us. So anyways, when it comes to authentic content, it works. Using your story works. It gives you an advantage when it comes to being selected. Like, you know, I work with bookkeepers, and sometimes they'll be like, there are a million bookkeepers out there, you know, networking in the same groups and things of that nature. This is something that helps set you apart. All of these people may be as qualified or nearly as qualified, but story does something that puts you over the edge. If you're able to understand who you're talking to and connect your story to theirs and what they want to do, it's massively powerful. This is what authentic content means. This is why it helps. Here's another one. You want your business, your person, your services to be remembered. And a good story is more memorable than facts. I don't know if you guys, another book that's good is the book Made to Stick. At the very beginning of the book, he tells a story about this urban myth, the one where the guy meets a woman at the bar, and then she roofies him, and he wakes up, and his kidney's missing, he's sitting in a bath full of ice. It's just like, you remember that, but if someone reads you off a list of statistics, or even if you read it 3 times in a book, your eyes kind of glaze over and you're just like, I have no idea what I just read. You remember the story. We're built to remember stories, to communicate in stories. It sticks with us. One of the examples they have in the Made to Stick book is this guy goes through all of this, like, you know, numerical gobbledygook. Out of 23,000 employees, only 37% they had a clear understanding of what the organization is trying to achieve. Only 1 of 5 was enthusiastic. Only 1 of 5 had a clear line of sight. Blah, blah, blah. So once again, if I read this all the way through, your eyes would glaze over. You would have no idea what I said. But what this presenter did, that's why they had this example in the book, instead of just listing off statistics, which are just as true as the story. Again, this is not about changing the information or anything like that. Same information. He presented it differently so it would be memorable. He said, let's say that instead of an organization, this is a soccer team, and only 4 of the 11 players in the field would know which goal is theirs. Again, that's a story. It's not just a list of statistics. It sticks. It makes more sense. You remember that. And also, another reason why this matters, when you make connections through authentic content, through results-oriented storytelling, what you're trying to do in part is establish likability through commonality. You're trying to find things in common. So this is proven in research that this actually helps us to become more persuasive, more likely to be hired. I like this quote. This is also from the book Let the Story Do the Work. Making even subtle changes in the way we communicate can create disproportionate impact when we attempt to persuade. For example, psychologist Robert Cialdini's 35-year-long, I don't know if I said it right, research on social influence demonstrates that liking is one of the 6 major levels of persuasion. Levers of persuasion. We tend to like those whom we perceive as being like us, and we are more likely to say yes to them. So when we find ways to connect to people, we say, I am like you in this way, I understand you in this way, then again, it's a persuasion tactic, it's strategic. We are alike, and it makes them more willing to listen to you, interact with you, talk with you, and hire you. And so that's why this authentic content matters. You're not just spouting off stories about yourself for no reason. On the surface, it may look like it's not much, but it goes really deep if you know how to use it the right way. So how do you come up with ideas for effective, authentic content or this results-oriented storytelling? So here's 3 things to keep in mind, and then 3 approaches on how to come up with ideas that are effective. Again, authentic content is something that we're using to get a certain result. So we're trying to keep the end result in mind, right? So I'm going to walk you through a process of keeping that result in mind and making your stories effective, not just spewing. I don't just want you to put content out there that they're not going to respond to. I want to show you how to come up with ideas in a way that they'll be responsive. So here's 3 things I want you to remember. Here's the first thing I want you to remember, because a lot of bookkeepers have said this to me too. They feel like they're boring. They feel like their work is boring. They swear they have no stories to tell. That's not true. All that matters is that you practice the skill of storytelling and you learn how to tell your stories well. Okay, so there's a screenwriter. He actually mentors other screenwriters in Hollywood. It's a really big deal, Robert McKee. His former students have included more than 60 Academy Award winners, so keep that in mind. This guy knows stories. He knows stories that sell and get awards. And here's what he says. Given the choice between trivial material, maybe a boring-ish subject matter, brilliantly told, versus profound material, I don't know, like escaping slavery or something like that, badly told, an audience will always choose the trivial story told brilliantly. So this is what I want you to take away from it. If you feel like your story is boring, you feel like there's nothing to tell, it's not that. You can learn how to tell your story in a way that's compelling. Don't worry about having to, live this like insane, crazy, oppressed life. You don't have to have that for a good story. You just need to learn how to tell your story well. So that's the first thing I want you to know. I don't care how boring you think your life is, you have stories. It's just a matter of learning how to tell them in a way that connects. Again, we have a result that we're going for. The second thing I want you to keep in mind, coming up with this content takes time. I don't have a secret trick for you. I don't have a hack for you. I have guidelines. I have things that work and will keep working for you. It's not overnight stuff. It does take time to sit down and work through it. I wish it were faster. I have been trying to find faster versions for months. I would love it if it were faster. But it's a skill you can develop. And you'll get more used to it. You'll understand more what you're looking for and how to put it together. It takes some time, it takes some reflection and practice, but honestly, one of the good things that comes out of it is more clarity in your own business, what you're doing, and it helps give you more purpose. That's what I've seen. The more tuned in I am with my authentic content through this process, the better I feel about my business, my client relationships, my direction, my results. So for what that's worth. So I'm going to teach you how to come up with ideas. One thing that may help you is, and I'll get into that later, when you come up with stories, it's okay if you want to categorize them by like values and things like that. Again, we are coming up with stories for a specific reason. We're trying to connect with our potential clients. So if you need to sort them a certain way, don't think that people just put content up spur of the moment every day when they're inspired. Any good writer will tell you if you wait for that, you'll write sporadically at best. There's a system to keeping the ideas, to sharing them, to posting them, to making sure you're posting the stuff that connects. So don't feel bad about having to keep a record, having to track things, having to write things down in advance and pull it up. Same with what I tell you guys about selfies. The selfie that I post today may be a picture I took a week ago. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Same thing. And a third thing to keep in mind when it comes to coming up with ideas, the purpose is to draw connections, okay? Again, this is purpose-driven content. You need to figure out where they are, and you need to get clear on where you are and find the line between you guys and rope in what you do as to your service. So what you're doing is drawing a true and honest line between 2 points, your client and yourself. And you're trying to say, we are connected, we are in line, I understand you, okay? So keep that in mind, is to draw connections. All right, now I have 3 different approaches that you can try when it comes to coming with ideas that are actually effective. So I have one way that works for reverse engineering. If you know your customers and how your work serves them, it's a good way to work backwards. So think about your customer. What are the values important to them in their personal lives? What are they dealing with in their daily lives? Think about what they want to accomplish, how they view the world. For example, maybe you have conservative clients. They aren't risk takers. They're more habit driven. They are analyzers. They prefer comfortable long-term arrangements. They're in the same house for a long time, stay in the same job. Keep that in mind. You may not want to, if you're trying to connect with them and they're more conservative, risk-averse people, and you have a service that's supposed to be very conservative and protective, maybe telling stories about, you know, like bungee jumping or, I don't know, like skydiving, whatever, may not connect with them on that level. That may not resonate with them. Do you see what I'm getting at? Let's take another tack. If your clients are mothers who work from home, what would their values be? What are they dealing with in their daily lives? Their flexibility in their schedule is everything. They're usually putting everyone else's needs ahead of their own. Their business is like their personal dream that they're pursuing when everything else seems to belong to their family. They're spinning a lot of plates, things of that nature. Do you see what I'm getting at? So you're trying to figure out what values drives their decisions every day, what they're struggling with every day. Because once again, we're trying to make this connection and we can't connect with them if they don't know where they are. We need to figure out where they're starting from. And then also, now start thinking about your service. What values would they probably want in a person who does the work or service you're offering? Once again, what values would they probably want in a person who does the work or services you're offering? So for example, if you work in finances, again, you can look in, like, if you aren't sure what other people value, like in people in your field, something you can do kind of as a hack, look at the reviews on Facebook or websites of other clients. So if you're a bookkeeper, go look at the reviews of other bookkeepers. What are clients complimenting them on, liking, things of that nature, and that'll give you an idea of what they value. Anyways, so what value would they probably want in a person who does the work or service you're offering? So say you're a bookkeeper or do finances. Okay, so maybe stories about being trustworthy. Maybe they want someone who's reliable, experienced, down to earth, someone who won't talk down to them, who's got a sense of humor maybe. So then the stories can flow in that way. Or maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a life coach, maybe you're a business coach. Maybe you need stories that are more on the line of someone that they want who's like something, you overcome something, you inspired something or were inspired to do something, you achieved a big goal, you took a big risk. You see what I'm getting at? What would they want from someone who's in your, from someone that they would hire like you to help them achieve? And this is how you can reverse engineer things. Think about the values that drive their choices, think about the problems they deal with on a day-to-day basis, and think about what they would want from a professional like you, from a service like yours. And you can reverse engineer from that. It's like, okay, this person is a mom who wants a bookkeeper. Okay, so she's dealing with a lot of stressful things, doesn't have much time. She's trying to get the business off the ground by herself. She wants someone who's reliable, and you can think back. It's like, okay, do I have a story in my life, I don't care if it was last week or last year or last decade, where I helped someone, where I made a difference in that I showed up for someone, I was consistent, I was reliable? Is there a way you can demonstrate that you fill that need that they're looking for by using a story? This is where it gets strategic. You're trying to figure out, what do they need, and do I have a story in my life, a true story, where I illustrated filling that need? And so that's one way to reverse engineer things. Think about who they are. A second approach that you can take is, honestly, have a bank of your own value-centric personal stories. So you have more freedom here. It's not quite as laser focused as if you're talking to a very specific person, but it could be a good way to get started. This may be a good starting point if you're not quite sure of who you're talking to or what exactly they would respond to. But I do have some helpful starting points that will still help you like think in a results oriented way, right? One good way to start: what are your most important values in your personal life? Is it integrity? Is it personal growth? Are you adventurous and think that's essential to life? Is a good sense of humor absolutely essential? What makes your life, your business, your family, your everything? What are things that run through it? How do you live your life? What drives your decisions? Don't worry about being super duper business focused in that sense. Just let it flow. What are the values that drive your life? Try and make a list, and then come up with like 1 to 3 personal stories, even if it's just a sentence or two, just as a reminder, that illustrate each of these values. Okay, I love being adventurous. What stories can I tell about that? Okay, for me, I went whitewater rafting. I've gone skydiving. I moved, I moved to a different continent, things of that nature. So those all illustrate that, like, yes, adventure is a value in my life. Do you see what I'm saying? And you get what I'm saying. Okay. So, and then also, so that's your personal life. That's personal values. I also want you to think about the most important values in your business, okay? Maybe those things are customer service, proven results, integrity, good value, good turnaround time. Great. Now, something that a lot of times my clients struggle with is they'll use this and it's so jargonized that it doesn't even like click with people. It just kind of skims right over the top of the head because we're so used to hearing jargon and buzzwords. So try your best to break down and humanize any of those business values that you have, okay? So this is what I mean. Say that customer service is an example of a value in your business, okay? Great. Customer service is just going to go whooshing right past the ear. Of course, every business says customer service. So what are some human elements of good customer service? Okay, you're patient, you solve problems, you're a good listener, you're a clear communicator, you over-deliver. Okay, those are more human terms than customer service. Customer service is vague, and so this is what I mean. Break it down into like human elements, and then you can connect stories to those human elements. What's a time when you were a good listener, especially for a client? What's a time where you solved a problem? You found a solution that was really hard. Connect it with like those more human elements, right? To illustrate that you are looking for good customer service, or I deliver it, and here is the story about my life that proves it. Another way to think about this is instead of just like, business values, maybe that's not clear. Think of what are the customer results that you're the most excited about and that are most important for you to achieve and get for them? What's the transformation you're giving them, the best benefit you're giving them? Why did you get into and start this business? That may be an easier way to think about what your business values are. What gets you excited? What's the best part of your business? Things of that nature. Again, when you come up with these value words, attach 1 or 3 personal stories from your business or business-related experiences that illustrate you being true to those values. This is where the magic comes from, okay? So that's the second approach. Like I said, the first approach, you reverse engineer it by knowing who your customer is. Again, we're trying to figure out where they are. Second approach is having a collection of your own value-centric personal stories. What makes you tick? What's important in your life, in your business, okay? So these are the 2 ends that we have. Another thing that we can do, this is especially good for people who aren't sure who their niche is, who they're talking to yet. If you're struggling for ideas on where to come up with stories, something that I refer to a lot actually is you want to think of universal things. And that may sound kind of vague at first, but if you're struggling to come up with stories specifically to your clients or even at all, the best place I can think to tell you to go look is icebreaker questions. Google icebreaker questions, find some good ones. Those are specifically meant to help break the ice, start a conversation, and help people find commonalities. So find an icebreaker question list. It's a great place to start. And when it comes, and then like take that as inspiration to write stories from. One of them might be, like, well, what was your first car? And then everyone in the circle would talk about that. That's a universal thing. Most people have had a first car. They have a strong memory attached to it. It's attached to a nostalgic part of their life. So one note I will make with that, as you're coming up with these stories, make sure that all of your stories involve a conflict. Basically, there's a problem that needs solved, something that needs changed, a conflict that needs taken care of. This is how you make your post interesting, is that you want there to be something to solve. So as you come up with these ideas, make sure that when you tell the story, it's of problem solving. There's something that needs to be changed or overcome. That's what makes it interesting. So when you're coming up with universal situations, you can go two ways. You can go universal values. Okay, what does everyone value? Okay, overcoming stories are good ones. Redemption stories are good ones. You know, I crashed and burned, but then I came back up. Stories of growth. I started here, but now I'm here. Love. It's just like, you know, I love my kids, love my family. Overcame this to be with someone I loved. Risk-taking. For some people, that's a great story, and even if it's not something that's a personal value of their own, if they're more conservative, they may still like the voyeuristic almost of watching someone else take the risk. Something that gives them hope that the world is a better place. Everyone likes a good feel-good story, right? Yeah, so those are universal values. You could also do universal like life situations. So what are your firsts? Your first boyfriend, first girlfriend, first kiss, first car, first time you rode a bike. You see what I mean? So a lot of people have those firsts. Most people have a memory of firsts. When you're being a kid, high school, elementary school, sports teams, school clubs, first friendships, going through puberty, some of the funny things from that. Your family, everyone's got parents, most people have siblings, cousins, grandparents. Draw from that. Everybody's got family. For example, my story from that is years ago when I got married, my grandmother caught on fire at my wedding. That's a true story. And it's been one of the best icebreakers that I've ever told. She's fine. She was fine, by the way. It was just her shirt, and it was fine. But everyone has kind of like a dramatic relative or whatever, something. Anyways, traveling, another universal life situation. Where have you been? Where do you want to go? Food's a good one. Talking about recipes, or maybe you squish two together and it's like maybe you have an Italian heritage, but you love Italian food, so you put them together. So those are the places you come up with ideas where you find out your values and connect stories to them, and you find out their values and you find ways to connect your stories to them. So again, icebreaker questions, great place to start. All right, so how do we use authentic content or results-oriented storytelling in our business? This is going to be long, sorry guys, hang in there. There are two main ways that I would suggest that you use this. One of them I'm going to walk you through as a very specific example, and I'll also give you a tip on some story structures. So, one way to use results-oriented storytelling is just to build a personal connection. You guys know I had the content membership, and sometimes you just tell a story about yourself. There's no sales pitch or anything like that, but there is a strategic element. This is letting someone know who you are and what your values are. So for example, when it comes to me, my life in Israel, my move to Israel, building a life here, trying to learn a language, all this stuff, that's in one way has nothing to do with my business, but I still talk about it. In part because there is a strategic element in the fact that I'm showing you parts of who I am. I'm brave, I'm a risk taker, I'm a problem solver, I follow through on what I say I'm going to do, and these are attractive qualities. And if I just sat there and listed that all out in a post, you wouldn't care. But when I share my stories that exhibit it, they're not false stories, they're true stories, just like you have. You get a better sense of who I am, whether or not I'm someone you want to work with, that you would like I said before. This is how you help people get to know you and get to like you. Again, remember, most of the time when we tell stories, even not in our business, there's a desired reaction we're seeking when we tell a story, even if it isn't for business. Sympathy for a bad day, excitement for good news. We want a certain reaction, and this is in that similar case. Anyway, so one way to use these authentic content stories is to just tell people who you are. And if you want, you can focus on stories that display the values that you think that your clients would resonate with. So, but there is a way to bake a sales pitch in. So I'm going to use an example from my friend Rebecca. She has this one story that just fits this perfectly. So remember, your goal is to clarify and strengthen a message. You're not trying to manipulate or trick. You're just trying to illustrate your story. You're trying to take that list of statistics from the beginning and turn it into that metaphorical soccer team where it's like, oh, and the light bulb comes on and people connect, right? This is all we're trying to do, and then the decision is up to them. So I have, okay, this is a 5-point checklist for how to basically put this together into a post. Now my friend Rebecca has this great story she's shared a couple times, where she is talking about, where she is pulling together the story about her daughter being sick into her business, the results she gives to her clients and her services. Now on the surface, it's just like, well, what does that mean? So let's go through the checklist and I'll run through the example. Number 1, what are you selling? So make that clear. What are you selling? Okay. Bookkeeping services, copywriting services, the membership that I have, whatever. All right. Through that, what transformation are you giving? What problem are you solving? Feel free to dump ideas. For bookkeeping, you're giving more time with family, more time in their business, free them up for enjoying more tasks in their business, less stress, confidence at tax time, whatever. Okay. Look at that list. What values can you see in there? Okay, they want more time with their family. All right. They are taking a risk with their business. Maybe they fear things won't work out. Maybe they're afraid that they won't overcome the odds in their business, or they want to know about succeeding. But let's focus on enough time with the family. So try and connect with one of those when it comes to your service, connect that to the transformation that they want to have, and then connect a story of yours to that transformation. Does that make sense? So again, bookkeeping can help people have more time. For some people, that means more time with their family. Okay, so they don't have enough time with their family. Is that a problem that you dealt with in your past? Okay, how did you deal with it when you didn't have enough time in your family? So let's say at your previous 9 to 5, you always worked overtime and didn't have enough time with your family. Or, you know, let's stick with that because it also ties in with Rebecca's post. Okay, so you have an experience of where you also, in your 9 to 5 job, that's why you transitioned to your bookkeeping business, because you wanted that flexibility, okay? So even though you didn't get the same result in the same path, you're still able to relate to them on that path, and you can show them how you can help them get there too. So what you then do is you start out by telling the story, and you make the connections. Again, we're just trying to make the connection very clear. This is, you know where they are, you know what you can do, and you know how to connect it. So this is a story that Rebecca told as far as an example. Rebecca is a life and business coach, and she tries to help entrepreneurs scale, have less stress, work fewer hours, things of that nature. And she told a story about her daughter having a fever that was really good. So here's what she did. She picked a value. They wanted to simplify their businesses so they can provide for their families, stop working on the weekends, have more time with their family. Okay, family time. And Rebecca could see that and be like, okay, at her previous 9 to 5, she usually worked overtime, and she couldn't be flexible enough to do what's best for her kids sometimes, or spend as much time at home with them as she wanted. Okay, that's a commonality. She's drawing a connection between her and her clients. They want more family time, and she was in that position too before. So she tells the story about how one time she had this kind of epiphany. One day her daughter got sick. She wasn't able to stay home with her, so she had to bring her sick daughter to work with her. and had to basically make a bed for her in office chairs in her office, and it just broke her heart. And there was something about that that just really illustrated to her, I need to make a change. So remember how I said earlier, you want to make sure that your authentic content is, there has to be a change made, a conflict there. That was the conflict for Rebecca. I have this problem and I need to solve it. This is what makes this a compelling story. So she tells a story about how one day her daughter got sick and she had to bring her into work. She couldn't stay home with her. And that's when she knew she needed to make a change. So she got serious about doing what it took. You know, she got the training she needed to become a coach and to leave her business and to replace her income. And then she used to tell the story about how, you know, most recently her daughter was sick again, but it wasn't a big deal because she could be home with her. She could still work without interruption. She didn't have to get in trouble with the boss. And she had intentionally created a life and a business that let her spend time with her sick daughter, care for her in the way that she wanted to, and build her family the way that she wanted. Sorry, someone in the alley. So she overcame the challenge. She solved the problem. And then what she does is that not only she relates with that feeling of, I want more time with my kids, I want more flexibility with my family, she showed how she solved it, and then she ties it back into an offer of hers. She created a system in her business that helped her achieve this life. She now uses that system to help others achieve it in theirs. And then she can help you do the same with her coaching program. So do you see how that progression goes? She found this point that her potential clients were looking to achieve. She found a way to relate to it. She illustrated it with a true story from her own life. And in overcoming it, she's like, I can help you solve this problem through my services. So do you see what I mean? It's just like, this is the absolute progression of finding out where they were, connecting the values, and then showing herself as a solution to the problem in a very authentic way. So that's an example. So, and then just as far as like, those are the two ways that you can really use it. And then you can like use it over and over again. That's just an example. You can interchange it however you want. And then if you're looking for like kind of like helpful story structures, again, I can't highly recommend that book enough. Let the story do the work. That's what it's called. Sorry. She gives something called the 5 basic plots of business communication when you're telling stories for your business. 1, an origin story. People love to know where things came from, how they got started. 2, rags to riches. So talk about how you came from something to nothing, or, you know, an element of that nature. 3, rebirth, redemption. You had everything, you lost it all, you came back, you know, something like that. Overcoming the monster. Good storylines for that are like, think of the movie Jaws, or even the King's Speech. His monster was overcoming his speech impediment. We love that overcoming story. And also like the quest. So think of like The Hobbit or Indiana Jones. Dyson Vacuums is apparently a good example of that story, of someone who just was persistent about going on this quest, this very long, involved journey for a very specific, rich goal. So those are all of the ways to do it. So yes, I knew this one would be long, but I was really excited about this because I know this is a term used a lot and I wanted to understand it better. So my apologies for it being so long. I know it's crazy long. But if you got this far, congratulations. I will probably try and break this down into smaller pieces somehow over the next couple of weeks. But if you have more questions about authentic content, let me know. If you need help with just coming up with consistent content, period, through the content membership, it's got fill in the blank stuff so that you can make it more authentic, that fits your personality more. And if you just want coaching on this kind of stuff, some strategies on how to improve your message, have more sales, connect with more people, just let me know. I do that too. Anyways, it's been 45 minutes of me gabbing, so I'm gonna let you guys go. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.